Welcome to the Psychology of Gambling, the podcast from Mind Over Odds, where we believe if you control your emotions, you control your outcomes.
I want you to think about the last time you had a really, just an incredibly overwhelming, stressful week. You finally get home, right? You crash onto the couch, pull out your phone, and you open up some app.
Right, yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah, and maybe it's a social media feed, or maybe it's just one of those seemingly harmless little puzzle games, and you tell yourself, I'm just going to decompress. I'm just going to check it for like 5 minutes.
Just 5 minutes.
Exactly. And then you blink, you look up at the clock, and an entire hour has just completely vanished into thin air. You've been locked in this weird scrolling trance.
Yeah.
And honestly, you didn't even really want to be looking at your phone that whole time.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, you just couldn't seem to look away.
Yeah.
I think almost everyone listening right now knows exactly what that creeping sense of lost time feels like.
Oh, absolutely. And, that feeling of lost time, it's not an accident. It is a highly orchestrated psychological state.
Right, which is wild to think about. And that's exactly what we're connecting this to today, right?
Yeah.
We're taking that everyday feeling of being glued to your phone, and we're looking at how that exact same trance is weaponized on the casino floor.
Precisely. Today, we're unpacking how that is systematically reverse engineered, specifically within modern electronic slot machines. We're going to look under the hood to really understand the underlying neuroscience of why it feels practically impossible to walk away once you sit down.
Right.
And more importantly, we are going to share some practical daily habits you can use to build better emotional control when you find yourself in those exact situations.
That sounds great. So let's get right to the core assumption people make about this, because I think the prevailing thought is that anyone sitting at a slot machine for hours is just, desperately chasing a massive pile of money, right?
Right.
I mean, it looks like purely financially motivated behavior. If you're just feeding $20 bills into a glowing screen, the logical assumption is that you just want to get rich quick.
It totally looks that way from the outside. But the psychology actually tells a remarkably different story. Because for frequent players, the cash is entirely secondary.
Really? Secondary?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. The primary goal is entering what's clinically known as the machine zone, or sometimes you'll hear it referred to as dark flow.
Dark flow.
Yeah, it is a profound dissociative state. What happens neurobiologically is that your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that handles your daily worries, your social anxieties, your to-do lists, and even physical pain, it essentially just powers down.
Wow.
The machine becomes a buffer against reality. You basically become an extension of the interface.
It sounds super clinical when you call it dark flow, but honestly, it's remarkably similar to, like, binge watching a painfully mediocre TV show.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because you aren't engaged because the writing is brilliant, right? Or the cinematography is award-winning. You're just watching because the predictability and the visual noise act as an insulator.
Exactly.
It stops the stressful thoughts from bubbling up. You just want the mental noise of your life to stop, and staring at that screen achieves that.
Precisely. The machine is anchoring you in a manufactured present. And, this is exactly where that financial motivation theory completely falls apart. Because for a player deep in the machine zone, a massive jackpot is actually a terrible thing.
Wait, really? A massive payout is a negative outcome?
Yes, it completely shatters the flow.
Because it breaks the trance.
Exactly. Think about it. If you hit a huge jackpot, the machine locks up, right? It plays this long, unskippable animation. The music changes entirely. And usually, a floor attendant actually has to physically come over, check your ID, and hand you the cash.
Right.
Yeah, all of those things force you to remember who you are, where you are, and the reality of your situation. The ultimate success state of the game is actually the biggest threat to the player's real psychological goal. The actual design of the machine is simply to keep you playing for as long as possible.
That is fascinating. But okay, if the goal is just to stay in the bubble, how does the machine get you into that state in the first place? I mean, it can't just be the flashing lights. There has to be some kind of mechanism that pulls you in.
Right. It relies on a behavioral mechanism called the variable ratio reinforcement schedule.
Variable ratio?
Yeah. It's essentially weaponized unpredictability. To understand the brain chemistry here, we really have to look at dopamine. Most people mistakenly think dopamine is the reward chemical.
Right, like the thing you feel when you finally get what you want.
Exactly, but it's actually the anticipation chemical. The massive spike in your brain chemistry happens right before the outcome is revealed, while the reels are still spinning.
Oh, I see. Which perfectly explains why fishing is so incredibly compelling for people.
Yes.
Because the physical reward of catching a fish isn't what keeps someone standing by a lake, just casting a line for 6 straight hours.
Yeah.
It's the tension while the bobber is just sitting there in the water.
Exactly.
Every single cast carries the exact same, microscopic potential of a bite.
Yeah.
You never know if the next cast is the one, so your brain gets a dopamine hit just from the possibility. You're basically addicted to the tension, not the fish.
That is exactly the mechanism. Now, contrast that unpredictability with a fixed ratio system, like a vending machine, for example.
Yeah, okay.
There is zero anticipation there. You put in $1, you press the button, the soda drops. If the soda doesn't drop, you don't keep feeding dollar bills into the machine hoping it changes its mind,
That's
right?
It'd be crazy to do that. You just walk away.
Exactly. You walk away immediately because the established rule was broken. But the slot machine conditions your brain to accept that there are absolutely no rules. Because the reward is completely randomized, it could be one spin away or 1,000. And that unpredictability hijacks your brain's reward center and basically forces you to crave the very next spin.
But I mean, there has to be a breaking point to that unpredictability, right? Like, if you are just bleeding money losing 50 spins in a row, the sheer pain of that financial loss should logically snap you out of the fishing trance. Your brain should realize the threat to your wallet.
Well, you would think so. But that brings us to the actual architecture of deception. The machines are programmed to mask the reality of your losses through a mechanism called losses disguised as wins, or LDWs.
Yeah, and how does a loss get disguised as a win?
Well, because modern electronic machines allow you to play multiple lines simultaneously, you might wager $1 on a spin, and the machine will proudly announce you've won 30 cents.
Geez, the math there is brutal. Because you didn't win anything, you were strictly losing 70 cents.
Exactly.
It's exactly like buying a $10 coffee, handing the barista a $2 discount coupon, and feeling this massive euphoric rush because you quote-unquote made $2, completely ignoring the $8 that just left your wallet.
Right, and the extreme danger of that coffee discount illusion is that it triggers your dopamine network long before your logical brain can actually do the math.
Wow, okay.
The machine celebrates that 70-cent loss with the exact same flashing lights, triumphant animations, and high-tempo music as an actual jackpot. Your brain processes sensory input lights and sound milliseconds faster than it processes mathematical reality.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so by the time your logic catches up and realizes you lost money, the emotional reward has already been delivered to your nervous system.
So your nervous system is literally being told you're on a winning streak, even
God.
as your bank account is actively draining. That cognitive dissonance is wild. I mean, it makes sense for the small payouts, but what about the big jackpot symbols? Like the ones that almost line up perfectly, because that creates a totally different kind of emotional response.
Right, you're talking about the near miss. 2 jackpot symbols land perfectly on the pay line, and the third one hovers just a fraction of an inch above or below it.
Yeah, exactly that.
This is perhaps the most aggressive hijacking of human biology on the entire casino floor because it completely bypasses our threat detection systems. Think about it in the real world. A near miss provides incredibly valuable feedback, right?
Right.
If you are practicing a golf putt and you miss the hole by an inch, your brain recognizes that your physical skill is improving. You adjust your grip, you check the wind, you try again, and your effort directly correlates to your future success.
Because in reality, effort equals outcome. But a slot machine doesn't require physical skill.
None at all.
There is no angle to adjust or, when to calculate. You're just pushing a piece of plastic.
Exactly. It operates on a random number generator. The outcome of the spin is decided the absolute millisecond you press the button. The visual display of the reel spinning is purely theatrical.
Seriously.
Yeah. An almost win on a slot machine is a mathematical impossibility. You either won or you lost. But the machine is specifically programmed to visually display those near misses at a disproportionately high rate to trick your brain's learning centers.
Wow.
It triggers a spike in adrenaline that your brain misinterprets as excitement rather than a threat. It makes you feel like you are getting closer to mastering a system that is Fundamentally unmasterable.
Wait, so if I almost win, the machine isn't, like, due to hit soon?
No, not at all. Every single spin is an entirely independent, predetermined event. There's no due.
It is genuinely exploiting our evolutionary drive to learn and improve. Like, it takes our natural desire to master our environment and just turns it into a massive financial liability.
Yes.
Given how deeply these machines manipulate our biology, it's vital to have an external circuit breaker. If you or someone you know struggles with compulsive or problem gambling, free help is available 24 hours a day by calling 1-800-GAMBLER.
It is a really necessary resource because every single feature we've discussed so far, the variable ratio, the disguised losses, the near misses, is just designed to systematically strip away your actual control while feeding you the illusion that you are the one making progress.
Right. And, if the machine is working that hard to strip away our actual control, it makes sense that it would need to offer us some sort of placebo to keep us from feeling completely helpless.
Exactly.
Which brings us to the physical interface itself, right? The stop button. You hit play, the digital reel spin, and you can aggressively slap that button to stop them early.
Right.
And I have to admit, it feels really good.
Oh, for sure.
It genuinely feels like you are dictating the rhythm of the game, like your reflexes actually matter.
You are definitely not alone in feeling that way. It taps directly into our psychological need for a locus of control. Humans are deeply uncomfortable with powerlessness. Studies show that roughly 87 to 89% of players falsely believe the timing of when they hit the stop button directly influences the symbols that land on the screen.
89%.
Yeah. We've already established the random number generator predetermined your fate instantly, but the brain creates this false narrative of agency just to cope with the randomness of the machine.
It's basically the elevator closed door button.
Yes, perfect analogy.
I mean, most of those buttons are completely disconnected from the actual circuitry of the elevator,
Yeah.
but mashing them vigorously gives us an outlet for our anxiety when we're in a rush. We feel productive.
Exactly.
We feel like our action is causing a result. But on a slot machine, that stop button isn't just a harmless placebo to make us feel better, right? It actually changes the dynamics of the session.
Yes, it accelerates the timeline. By stopping the visual animation early, you are drastically increasing your rate of play. A standard spin might take, say, 4 or 5 seconds to resolve, but with the stop button, you can initiate a new wager every single second.
Oh, wow.
It hyper-accelerates your descent back into the machine zone. You are exposing yourself to the mathematical house edge twice as fast, all while feeling like you're the one driving the car.
So the illusion of control directly funds the speed of the loss. That is terrifying.
It really is.
So how do we combat a physical interface designed to manipulate our sense of time and agency like that? What is the habit we need to build here?
Well, the actionable habit is physical detachment. You have to break the physical circuit. When you
Right.
notice yourself aggressively leaning into that stop button, getting caught up in the rhythm, you need to stand up and step entirely away from the machine.
Just walk away.
Create actual physical distance. Removing your hands from the console forces your brain to reset and recognize the reality. You do not control the outcome.
I mean, stepping away sounds incredibly simple in theory, but we have to acknowledge the environment you're stepping away into.
Right.
The casino floor isn't a neutral space like your living room. It is a highly engineered sensory labyrinth designed to keep you disoriented.
Oh, absolutely. The acoustic architecture alone is staggering. A single digital slot game can layer over 400 distinct, meticulously designed sound effects. And these frequencies are not chosen at random. Audio engineers specifically tune the machine's sounds to fall within the middle frequencies of human speech, roughly between 250 and 2000 hertz.
Wait, why that specific frequency range? What does that actually do to us?
Our evolutionary biology recognizes those middle frequencies as safe, friendly human chatter. It subconsciously soothes our social threat radar.
Yeah.
If you hear a high-pitched screech or a low rumbling growl, your nervous system spikes with anxiety.
Right, fight or flight.
Exactly. But the slot machine sounds like a friendly crowd. On top of that, the musical tones are overwhelmingly composed in the key of C major.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, musically, C major is associated with happiness, resolution, and harmony. It doesn't create tension. It creates a sense of endless optimism and safety.
Wow, so it's orchestrating dopamine through musical harmony.
Yeah.
But, what's really insidious isn't just the symphony of sounds they include. It's the crucial sound they intentionally omit.
Oh, the missing sound.
Right. There's absolutely no losing buzzer. If you're on a trivia game show and you give the wrong answer, you get a harsh, jarring audio cue indicating failure. It's a negative anchor.
Exactly. And why is the absence of that negative anchor so important on the casino floor?
Well, think about it. If a slot machine blasted an obnoxious, humiliating buzz every single time you lost $1, the casino would empty out in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it would.
It would be emotionally exhausting.
Yeah.
Instead, when you lose a true spin, the machine goes entirely silent. The reels just stop. It only makes noise when you win or when it feeds you a loss disguised as a win. And the psychological impact of that silence is profound. Human memory encoding relies heavily on sensory feedback. Without an auditory cue to attach to the loss, your brain essentially fails to record the negative event. You remember the bright, loud wins, and the silent losses simply evaporate from your mental ledger. It is literally editing your memory in real time.
That is a brilliant breakdown of the cognitive blind spot. And, the sensory manipulation extends far beyond the machine itself, right into the physical architecture of the building. Historically, casinos utilized what we call the maze approach.
The maze.
Right, this is the classic design. No windows, no clocks, confusing labyrinthine walkways, and incredibly busy, almost aggressively ugly carpets.
I've always wondered about the carpet. They're always so loud and chaotic.
The carpet design is intentional visual noise. It's so chaotic that your eyes naturally seek out the clean, bright, aesthetically pleasing screens of the slot machines for relief. The floor physically repels your gaze upward.
Oh my gosh, forcing your focus exactly where they want it. But modern casinos seem to be shifting away from that dark maze. You walk into these new mega resorts now, and they are massive, open, and flooded with natural light.
Yes, that is the playground approach. The psychological strategy evolved. Instead of trying to physically trap you in a dark, confusing room, they use extreme luxury as anesthesia.
Luxury as anesthesia.
High vaulted ceilings, beautiful imported sculptures, skylights, expensive marble. When an environment signals immense wealth and safety, our biological risk aversion plummets.
Really?
Yeah. When you feel elevated social status because your environment is screaming luxury, your stress hormones drop. With low cortisol, your risk assessment is entirely impaired. You don't feel the danger of losing hundreds of dollars because you feel pampered. The luxury softens the blow of the financial reality.
So whether it's the maze forcing your eyes to the screen or the playground numbing your sense of financial risk, the ultimate goal is exactly the same: time on device.
Exactly.
Losing track of the external world, which is why the daily habit to combat this environmental manipulation needs to be sharp and disruptive.
Exactly. Before you enter any space designed to hold your attention, whether it's a casino floor or just sitting down with your tablet on the couch, set a strict timer on your phone. But do not use a pleasant melodic chime. Use a jarring, non-musical alarm.
Something that sounds like a fire drill, basically. You have to actively break the C major spell.
Yes. The alarm must be cognitively dissonant. When it goes off, it shatters the acoustic architecture, it violently pulls you out of the machine zone and reminds your nervous system that the outside world and the passage of time still exist.
Wow.
It gives you the necessary friction to re-engage your prefrontal cortex.
It's a powerful tool for self-awareness. And, it brings up something I want everyone listening to consider long after this deep dive is over. Because the mechanics we discussed today, the variable rewards, the disguised losses, the illusion of control, the frictionless design, they are no longer confined to the casino floor.
That is so true.
The next time you interact with any digital interface, whether you're endlessly scrolling a social media feed, swiping through a dating app, or tapping through a mobile game on your couch, pay close attention to the sounds, the colors, and the subtle ways it responds to your touch. Take a step back and ask yourself, are you playing the machine, or is the machine playing you?
If you found this conversation helpful today, please follow the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people in our community find these resources. You can also visit the Mind Over Odds YouTube channel for more psychology-based insights on gambling behavior. We'll talk to you next time.
Control your emotions. Control your outcomes.